Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The economic downturn has really got me thinking about exiting some positions on volatile companies.
Illegal move.
Today's company that we're looking at is Tesla.
Okay.
But before we get into it, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more news and updates.
All right. So, what got you thinking about Tesla? What's going on here?
So the economy hasn't been doing great, and ever since the start of this year in January, Tesla has been going down and down and down. So I've been very conflicted. I don't know, from your experience, right? Every time you've sold, it's gone up, right?
Yeah. You have to have the diamond hands. Okay. Got to have the diamond hands on Tesla. I don't get to say that often, but I think Tesla is a company that you can have the diamond hands on.
Yeah, I was on board with that for a while, but it hit 1300, I think, at one point this year, and it's been steadily going down and down and down. In the past couple of weeks, they announced their earnings and they actually beat their earnings. So they're estimating 1.7 EPS and they beat it with a 2.1 or 2 point something. And I think that was a big shock to me, at least, because they had less production this quarter than the previous, and they also had a factory shut down in Shanghai.
Hmm. Well, okay. Look, those estimates are by Wall Street analysts, right? So it's not Tesla estimating for themselves and then being like, "Oh, I beat it," because otherwise every company would just be like, "I'm gonna make 1 penny," and then they'll beat it by like $10 or something. Um, okay, that's like an exaggeration, right? So they beat it by what 46 cents, even with a factory shut down for a good portion of time, and even with the supply chain problems. So, I mean, I think that's a good look for them for the rest of the year because their factory is now back up and running.
That's true, but I looked at the estimates for next quarter, quarter three. They're estimating 3.12. That's 33% more than
Well,
this quarter.
let's have you look at this way. All right, the Shanghai factory is one of their highest margin factories, which is basically it's me saying that this factory that makes the cars the cheapest, and then they sell them for the most because labor is cheaper there. They have access to all the materials for the electric cars there because the whole electric car situation is that much better in China than it is anywhere else because they've been going at it for so long and they have access to other battery manufacturers, so they're not just relying on themselves. And then they have lots of local buyers, which turned out really great for them. I think in June, I can't remember what the numbers were, but there was record sales numbers in June in China. I think for Tesla. Yeah, they sold 78,000 China-made vehicles in June. Um,
Oh, okay. That's over a quarter.
So that means the factory is running quite well, I would guess.
Then my counter argument would be there's some analysts predicting that they would have about 1.5 million vehicles produced in 2022.
I think I've
And
seen higher.
they previously forecasted 2 million in this year, but in this half year, they've only produced just around 500,000. So they got a long ways to go. I don't think they're going to meet that.
Well, it depends on how the Berlin factory ramp is going and how the Austin factory ramp is going. So if those factories are essentially non-factors right now. They're producing very minimal numbers of vehicles at this point, even though they are operating. So if the ramp up gets to a level where those two factories are operating more like the Shanghai factory, then they will be able to get those deliveries much higher. It's just because it's just part of how it goes. They have to test the vehicles that are coming out of it. They have to get more equipment into it. Just because the factory is open doesn't mean it's operating at full capacity.
Okay, I can see that the factories ramping up again would definitely push their sales. But I think 2022 is when a lot of other companies are entering the market to challenge Tesla. And then I also think Elon Musk's unstable behavior is definitely not gonna help.
Okay. Well, I really don't like that he wanted to buy Twitter. Now he doesn't want it anymore because Twitter's a dumpster on fire. Twitter aside, I mean, he could do what he wants with his money, right? It just might divert his attention if he wants to end up being CEO or whatever chairman of that company. I don't particularly like that because in order for Tesla to keep growing at the pace that it is, they need to build more factories.
Okay, so then that comes down to whether or not they have the funds to do that, right? I don't think they have enough cash on hand to actually build more factories, though. If we go and look at their quarterly statement, the math doesn't add up.
All right, so let's look at the balance sheet then. So as current assets, so under current assets we have cash and cash equivalents. They have 18 billion. These are in millions of US dollars, okay? And then they have short-term marketable securities. You can count those because those are short-term. Those are pretty liquid. So they have about a half billion, zero point 0.6 billion. Accounts receivable net. So this is money that's incoming, 2 billion. Um, Inventory. They have $8 billion worth of inventory. That's actually quite a bit. But you can't really count inventory because you have to sell it in order to get the money. So it's not like a short-term asset that you could use to buy a factory. If you really wanted to and be like, we could put a fire sale on this inventory in order to raise the money to build a factory, maybe you could discount it at some level. Maybe it's like 25% off. Then you'll sell all $8 billion worth of cars all at once. I'm sure that will go well. So maybe if you really wanted to, you could count it as 6 billion. But I think for our purposes, we will not count it for now, just to get a good number, an easier number to work with. And then it says prepaid expenses and other assets. Well, you can't count prepaid expenses either because that money's gone out and it's not coming back. Like you can't just get refunds on that. And then under that, you've got a whole bunch of things like solar energy systems. That's just the solar panels that they own that they lease to people. The property, plant, and equipment. You can't sell that. In fact, Tesla should be buying more. So between their factories, there's 21 billion. Um, so what is it? About 5 billion per factory or something like that. And then
Yeah.
operating lease right of use assets, you can't really count those either digital assets, goodwill, intangible, you can't count that. Other non-current assets, not you just can't count that.
Well, we could count digital assets. I think that's the Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, I guess you in theory you could.
But look at how much it dropped.
Oh shoot, they sold it. Oh wow, so they sold $1 billion of Bitcoin. So out of that cash, the cash and cash equivalents that they have, 1 billion of that came from Bitcoin. All right, so you can move on, right? So that you can do some quick math on that, and I think that comes out to be like 21 billion, and if you add the Bitcoin to it, it's like 21.2 billion or something. You can put the numbers on the screen, right?
Hmm.
You'll do that. So then you have liabilities and equity, right? So the ones that we really care about are like accounts payable because you have to pay those in order to stay in business. And then you have accrued liabilities and other, so you have to pay those too. Um, deferred revenue. Deferred revenue is not really a liability. It's just money that's going to be counted in later. So I don't think you can count deferred revenue as a liability. So we'll take that out. And then you have the customer deposits. The customer deposits, while it's money that you've received, you have to count it as a liability because in the off chance that everyone cancels, you have to have the cash in order to cover that, or else people would be very upset. Um, Current portion of debt and finance leases, yeah, you have to pay that too. So what does that get you? Like 19?
About 19.9, just around that.
$19.9 billion. So 21 versus 19.9. That's basically 1 billion. 1.1 if you count the Bitcoin, 1.2 billion dollars worth um, available assets that they could use. Which, if we were looking at it, you remember the property, plant, and equipment net part, where it was $21 billion, of give or take a billion per factory, so $4 to $5 billion per factory.
Mhm.
So if they needed to build another factory, they need to find $4 to $5 billion.
Yeah, and how are they gonna do that?
Well, they could raise money or sell bonds, right? So those are the two different pathways. So issuing bonds, you just end up with more debt, and then issuing stock, you just devalue the stock, in theory.
That's kind of why I sold my Tesla stock during this last week because it spiked upwards from their earnings report.
I don't hate that thought because, yeah, in the short term, if Tesla decides to raise money in order to build another gigafactory, which in order to fuel the stock to go higher, that's something that they would need to do, then you could see some short term pain. Which, if you're okay with that, um, you should just diamond hands through it and just hold. Because after they get through that, their sales numbers are going to be amazing. Um, and that will cause the stock to rocket. But if you sell now, that means you're just looking for that lower entry point when they announce that they're going to raise money or issue bonds. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah, because I mean I didn't sell all of it. Just to clarify, I sold 18 stocks,
18 shares.
18 shares. Yeah, sorry, for an average of 780, I think, and I think it will probably go below that this coming. I'll put numbers on the screen.
For perspective, it is currently Sunday, July 24th.
Yeah, that's my thought. That's what I got from the news articles and the financial statement.
I don't hate that. It's just that um, I don't know that it'll happen in 1 week.
That's okay.
And then what I don't like about it is that you're trying to time it. That's what I don't like about it. But what I do like about it is that we kind of know that they'll have to raise money in order to build the factories that they need to build. So basically, with all of this in mind, I understand that it could fall, but I'm also okay with it. Um, so I've basically decided that it's within my risk tolerance that they would fall and then come back up. And I don't mind that so much. And that's how I'm thinking right now. If that changes, you'll see it in the comments or you might see another video about it. Because, like I changed my mind about Polestar right before the merge.
Alright, well, in any case, EVs are definitely taking over the market. Um, Stock volatility will be up and down until that happens. Let us know what you guys think about Tesla and what you guys are doing with your Tesla stock. Leave it down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe for more videos.